I never expected an anniversary dinner to feel like stepping into a negotiation I hadn't agreed to. But that's exactly what it became the moment my wife Lauren casually mentioned that morning. "By the way, my boss is joining us tonight. Don't make it awkward." I remember staring at her baffled. Why would I make it awkward? She shrugged as if my confusion bored her. "He insisted on celebrating with us. He's been mentoring me. Just don't overreact." Almost like she hoped I would. I swallowed the irritation. This night was supposed to be about us, and lately keeping the peace had become my default. She'd been on edge for months. Maybe her boss, Connor, had supported her through something difficult at work. Maybe this dinner was her way of acknowledging him. Still, an odd heaviness settled in my chest, as if the night was already slipping away from being ours. We arrived early. I wore the watch she'd given me 3 anniversaries ago, back when she used to hide handwritten notes in my coat pockets. Those small, tender habits had vanished over the past year, replaced with conversations that felt clipped, practical, almost transactional. Lauren checked her phone over and over until Connor walked in. The second she saw him, she jumped to her feet and smoothed her dress, an unconscious adjustment people make when they want to be noticed. He greeted her first, ignoring me entirely. "Lauren, you look incredible tonight." She flushed. Actually flushed. "Thanks, Connor. Glad you could come." I stood and reached out my hand. "Ethan." He shook it lazily, like my presence was a formality. "Right, the husband." The words settled in my stomach like a stone. Dinner began pleasantly enough. Connor dominated the conversation with stories about big clients, late-night problem-solving, and the projects he and Lauren worked on together. Every so often, he'd brush her arm casually, and she never pulled away. I told myself I was imagining it, reading too much into every gesture. Then the drinks arrived. Connor leaned back in his chair like he owned not only the restaurant but the woman sitting across from me. He swirled his wine and said almost lazily, "You may be married, Ethan, but at work she's completely mine." My fork froze midway to my mouth. I waited for Lauren to laugh, to correct him, to wave it off, but she didn't. She lowered her gaze and murmured, "That's true. That's true." 3 words that split something clean and deep inside me. Connor smirked, pleased with himself, as if he had just planted a flag in unfamiliar territory. Maybe it was just a power move to him. Maybe this was never about her. But what hollowed me out wasn't him. It was her acceptance, her agreement, her silence. My hands turned cold. My thoughts sharpened into something quiet and still. Then a strange calm rolled over me. Not rage, not jealousy, but clarity. I picked up my phone and made one call. The person on the other end answered immediately. "Yeah, Ethan. Come to the restaurant now." "Understood." I hung up. Lauren stiffened. "What did you just do?" Connor laughed under his breath. "Calling back up? That's cute." He had no idea. Neither of them did. 15 long, suffocating minutes passed. Lauren shifted repeatedly in her seat, anxiety creeping across her features. "Ethan, seriously, what's happening?" "You'll see," I said. Not cold, just honest. Connor raised an eyebrow. "Don't embarrass yourself." Before I could answer, the restaurant door opened. A tall woman stepped inside, charcoal blazer, steady posture, and an expression sharp enough to cut glass. Jessica, Connor's wife. Connor's face drained of color. Lauren looked like someone had pulled the ground out from beneath her. The entire restaurant seemed to hush as Jessica walked straight toward our table, her heels tapping like a countdown. She didn't glance at Lauren. She didn't acknowledge me. Her gaze locked onto Connor with terrifying, composed calm. "Connor," she said quietly, "we need to talk." His jaw tightened. "Jessica, what are you?" She cut him off. "Not here. Not now. You're going to finish this dinner. Every bit of it. And when you get home," she paused, her voice lowering, "we will have a very different conversation." Then she turned to me and gave a small, grateful nod, a gesture that carried weight. Lauren stared at me like I was a stranger. But I hadn't changed at all. And what happened next, after Jessica walked out, turned our already ruined anniversary into something far worse. Something none of us were prepared for. Because the real nightmare was only just beginning. Connor sat there rigid, unable to move. His fork struck the plate with a sharp rattle, as if he suddenly didn't know whether it was meant for eating or defending himself. Sweat beaded along his forehead, but pride kept his mouth shut. Lauren leaned back, eyes wide, fingers trembling just enough to betray her. For once, she wasn't steering the moment. I drew in a slow breath. "Lauren," I said evenly, "you invited him tonight. You opened the door for all of this. I made one call. Nothing more." Her lips parted, then faltered. No comeback. She'd never expected to be challenged. Jessica returned to the dining room, quiet, composed, yet unmistakably authoritative. She approached Connor, and just her presence was enough to make him shrink into his seat. "You have explanations to give," she said, her voice low but cutting. Connor stuttered. I don't want excuses," Jessica cut in. "I want honesty. You've been showing off your so-called freedom at work, throwing your weight around, and now you've embarrassed your colleagues, your friends, and your wife right in public." The silence around the table grew dense. I could hear distant cutlery and soft chatter, all fading as people tuned into the storm hovering over us. Lauren's face drained of color. She glanced at me, pressing her hand to her mouth. "Ethan, I didn't know it would." "You did know," I replied gently. "And you let him say it. You let it happen." Tears gathered in her eyes, but she stayed quiet. I leaned back, letting the truth settle. Respect doesn't appear because someone demands it. It's earned. And when someone stops valuing it, it vanishes. Connor swallowed. I didn't think." "No," I said firmly. "You assumed you could ignore boundaries and walk away without consequences. That stops now." Jessica gave the slightest nod, as if confirming the lesson without needing to speak it. All the moments he'd crossed the line, all the arrogance he'd built up, it was finally catching up to him. Lauren stared into her glass. "I thought it was harmless," she whispered. "I didn't think it meant anything." I shook my head. There's no such thing as harmless when trust is involved. When loyalty slips, when actions put people at risk, you invited that into our lives. And tonight we're facing the fallout. The heaviness around the table deepened. Connor looked drained. Jessica remained calm and Lauren trembled, stripped of every excuse. The illusion of control had evaporated. Connor finally murmured, "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to," I said. "Just listen. Words mean nothing if your actions don't follow." Jessica's expression softened as she stepped back. Her message had landed. What he did next was on him. Then I turned to Lauren. When she met my eyes, I saw something new, fear, yes, but also understanding. For the first time, she saw the real consequences of her choices. "Tonight wasn't only about him," I said quietly. "It was about us, our boundaries, our respect. What we allow shapes our lives. When trust is broken or lines are crossed, there's a price." She swallowed. "I understand. You just what?" I asked gently. I didn't realize how far I'd let everything slip. I thought it was just playful, that it didn't matter. "Playfulness fades," I said. "Reality doesn't." And tonight reality caught up. Shame washed over her as she lowered her gaze. Connor collapsed inward, trapped in his own mess. Jessica gave him one final look that clearly meant, "Learn from this. Don't push again." Gradually, the restaurant regained its rhythm. Conversations resumed. But at our table, something had changed permanently. The celebration had turned into a reckoning. And through all of it, I realized something vital. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need theatrics. All I needed was clarity and the resolve to hold a boundary when it mattered. Lauren finally whispered, "Thank you. I didn't see any of this before." I reached across the table, resting my hand lightly on hers. "It's not about punishment," I said. "It's about awareness, about respect, about remembering that every choice has weight." Tonight made that clear. Connor said nothing more. He didn't have to. His silence was the clearest thing he'd offered all evening. And surprisingly, as the chaos gave way to quiet, I felt a calm settle over me. Our anniversary had derailed, become something painful and raw. Yet in that mess, truths finally surfaced. And sometimes, truth is worth more than any celebration.